In the present video, we will talk about the text generation and more precisely in how to organize text according to ergonomic and perceptual criteria, this process called the typography. Actually, we can distinguish two levels of typography, which we call micro-typography and macro-typography. Micro-typography is the small-scale text composition, whereas macro-typography is the composition of text on a piece of paper or on a screen. Let's first address the basics of micro-typography. As you see in the picture behind me, each character has a different shape, and sometimes at the endings of the characters there are perpendicular lines which somehow make the ending of the character a little bit more into relief. These endings are called the serifs, and we usually distinguish between serif characters and serifless characters. Sometimes the characters are moved towards each other in order to combine them, which we call a ligation, which you see also in the picture behind me. The characters have individual heights, and they are organized along a baseline, which you see here. And the small characters, they have a height which goes to the median, but there are some which go below the baseline up to the so-called descender, and there are others like capital letters which go to the upper part of the line scheme which you see behind me. The characters themselves, of course, have different shapes, and they may be displayed in different ways. Usually these characters are organized in so-called fonts and font families. We usually distinguish between proportional fonts, that is, fonts where each character has an individual width, and non-proportional fonts where each character has the same width. For example, Courier is an example of a non-proportional or fixed width font. The font size is usually indicated in terms of typographic fonts, and those typographic fonts depend on the standard. For example, for the PostScript standard, 1 point is 1/72 inches. We can then also change the font style, for example, from a normal to a bold font and to an italics font, and we can even combine those font styles, but usually we should make sparse use of different font styles in order to not make the picture of the text look inhomogeneous and destroy the attention of the reader. There are some more specific ways, for example, to adjust the spacing of the letters, some which are called kerning, that is when letters are moved towards each other in order to avoid an excessive space between them, which comes from the particular shape of those characters, as you see here, between the A and the V. And of course, we can also adjust the line spacing. All these are aspects of the micro-typography. The second level is the organization of text on a page. And we usually describe the page by the so-called page ratio. A common page ratio is, for example, 2:3. And then there are common rules which govern the adjustment of text on such a page. A very common canon is the so-called Van de Graaff canon, which illustrates the margin ratio between the inner margin, the top margin, the outer margin, and the bottom margin. And if you construct it as it is displayed on the screen behind me, you get a margin ratio of 2:3 to 4:6, which is something which is very pleasant for the reader. In principle, such a Van de Graaff canon works for all types of page ratios. Another very common canon for page construction is Chichol's golden section, which you see in the picture behind me, which is based on the separation of the page into blocks of ninth parts of the page length and width.